and there'd be immediate action against infringements. That their databases included financial information volunteered to them by customers, not given to them by third parties. And that 3 years ago the Office of Fair Trading had told them that their methods don't breach the guidelines. But the Office of Fair Trading told us it made that assessment based on what the company said it would do, not on what they actually do. And they've never carried out a check. The I Group told us its commission to the company was 1.7%, well within the normal range. The subprime market is being compared to the Wild West. Anything goes. New companies are moving in all the time to try and take a slice of this increasingly profitable business. Companies like Crazy George's, part of the huge Thorn Financial Services empire. This chain specialises in selling furniture and electrical goods to people who can't get credit anywhere else.
Some folks say he's crazy. Some folks say
they've opened 100 stores in the last 6 years. It's been controversial from the start because of the way it displays its prices and interest rates.
George's, you can buy furnishings, appliances, and home entertainments, and there ain't no credit checks.
This washing machine is advertised at £491, over £100 more than in a mainstream store. But Crazy George's lets its customers pay in small weekly instalments. The advertised interest rate is in line with other stores. That would mean weekly payments of £4.54. But Crazy George's advertises a much higher weekly rate, one which includes their optional service cover. That takes the full rate up to 76%. In total, that means buying the washing machine could cost over £1,000, hundreds of pounds more than it would have cost in a mainstream store.
There are a number of problems. Part of it's the legislation and also the consumer credit advertising regulations, where the consumer starts by looking at the adverts in the newspapers or in the shop. They're also hopelessly out of date. So the information that Crazy George puts in its adverts is quite legal, but what the consumer ought to know or should know is either in the small print or not there at all.
We'll get down to trying to catalogue what...
Debt advisors like Russell Kavanagh say they're seeing an increasing number of Crazy George's customers who seem confused about what they owe.
Oh, that's what I'm saying, they've not even replied. Very often they don't know exactly how much they owe. Crazy George staff can't tell them. Cheaper forms of credit that other people enjoy just aren't open, and it's because they're on such a low income and because they have such a low credit scoring, the lenders know that they've got nowhere else to go.
Crazy George tell us that all their staff are trained to clearly explain to customers how much they'll pay for the product, the credit, and the optional services cover should they choose to take it out. Other European countries take consumer protection more seriously, as Crazy George's has discovered to its cost. When they opened in France 4 years ago, an attack was launched on the company by the then leader of the opposition, Lionel Jospin, now the French Prime Minister.
It's something both mad and absurd. These are shops for poor people, where poor people actually pay twice as much for things as the rich. This is exploitation of poverty.
2 years ago, after a campaign by consumer groups, Crazy George's closed its stores in France.
If you're poor like Joe Myatt, you have less chance of striking a sensible credit bargain. Joe wanted a better life.
14 years ago, Panorama highlighted the fact that laws on credit were failing borrowers.
Joe may not have been wise, but what about the credit companies who lent to him?
It seems little has changed since then.
Every week, collectors call on Joe for repayment.
On the programme, there was a call for tougher consumer protection laws from an up-and-coming opposition politician.
What actually happens is that you get people who are so desperate, they take on debt without any real expectation that they're going to be able to pay it back. Now, in those circumstances, I think you need some measure of control and regulation to ensure that the unscrupulous aren't lending to the desperate when there's no possibility of repayment.
Once in government, Labour drew up proposals to tackle the problem identified so many years before. But last month, those plans were dropped from the Queen's speech. It was a bitter disappointment for people working with the growing numbers of borrowers struggling with debt.
Successive governments have been producing reports highlighting the weaknesses of the Consumer Credit Act, putting forward suggestions for change. Nobody did anything throughout the 1990s, so we were hopeful when the white paper came out in 99, which has only added to our disappointment because nothing has changed.
Where do you think this leaves consumers and borrowers, the fact that you're having to work with legislation that was drafted some 30-odd years ago?
Well, it leaves them with protection that does not match the modern market and the modern needs of consumers, which is why they're getting ripped off in this way.
Do you think you will be able to eventually pay off this £3,000? Do you think you'll ever get out of this spiral of debt?
It takes some doing, won't it?
It takes some doing.
A few years before they're all paid like.
We're determined to do it.
Do you think it'll be an easy thing to do?
No, definitely not.
What do you think will make it hard?
Temptation, I think, of them coming out all the time asking you. Definitely.
Back at the mortgage group, they've just heard that yet another loan has been sold. It's time to celebrate. Until there are tougher laws, the vulnerable will continue to provide plenty of profit for those who target borrowers with offers of easy credit. You can join a live chat with a debt advisor now on our website at bbc.co.uk/panorama. Next week, rail chaos. Do the promises that things are getting better stack up?
If you're affected by any of the issues in tonight's programme and would like details of organisations that can offer information and advice, you can call the BBC Action Line on 0800 077 077. Calls are free and confidential, and the lines are open every day from 7:30 in the morning until midnight.
It was Scottish football's darkest day.
This was a global football disaster with ramifications all around the world.
The memories of those involved remain undimmed.
There's people tugging and I'm getting my shirt ripped off and everything.
They were dying as you pulled them out. They were gasping for breath.
The Ibrox disaster begins a new series of excess.
My life as I had known it ended. It had to start again.
Tuesday at 10:35, BBC One Scotland.
It was an endless night.
Did you know how easy it is to watch almost all your favourite BBC programmes with subtitles? From award-winning drama and comedy to films, sports coverage and the local and national news. You can find subtitles for all sorts of programmes on CFAX page 888. Or if you're a digital viewer, simply select subtitles from the menu. Log on to bbc.co.uk/info for more details.
On BBC One Scotland now, hearts are racing and there's strong language as Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman star in Days of Thunder.
Welcome to the Daytona 500, the Super Bowl of motor racing events. Walking onto the grid is the two-time Daytona